How do chess players exploit weak squares in the middle game? Imagine a battlefield where certain spots are left unguarded, waiting for an attacker to step in. That's exactly what happens in chess when players spot weak squares. These are squares that no longer have pawns defending them because of pawn moves or exchanges. Once a square becomes weak, it's like an open invitation for your opponent to occupy it. The key is to find these spots early and turn them into your advantage. First, look for squares that pawns can't defend anymore. Usually, after a pawn moves forward or is captured, the square behind it can become vulnerable. Think of it like a hole in a fence that your opponent can sneak through. The closer these weak squares are to the center or your opponent's king, the more dangerous they become. They can serve as launching pads for attacks or disrupt your opponent's piece coordination. Next, plan how to control or occupy these weak squares. Knights are especially good for this because they can jump over other pieces and settle into outposts. An outpost is a strong square deep in enemy territory where your knight can stay safe and threaten many targets. Bishops, rooks, and queens can also target weak squares, but knights are often the best choice for quick occupation. Once you place a piece on a weak square, it's like planting a flag that says, "This is my territory now." Then, work on removing enemy defenders that guard these weak squares. You might trade off a piece that's protecting the square or use tactics to force it away. When the square is under your control, your piece can exert pressure, support other pieces, or even prepare for an attack. For example, a knight sitting on a weak square near the enemy king can create threats that are hard to meet, forcing your opponent into a defensive position. Using weak squares also helps restrict your opponent's options. If you control key outposts, their pieces have fewer safe squares to move to. This limits their activity and can lead to a better position for you. But be careful, creating weak squares in your own camp can backfire if your opponent exploits them. Always keep an eye on your pawn structure and avoid unnecessary pawn moves that create vulnerabilities. In the end, exploiting weak squares is about turning small positional advantages into bigger ones. Spot the undefended spots, plan to occupy them with your best pieces, remove any defenders, and then use those squares to press for an advantage. Mastering this skill can help you turn the tide of the game and set up winning attacks.